Welcome to the Nevada Patriot Podcast with Matt Sadler.
All right, so this is, again, for you listeners and viewers, I'm Matt Sadler with the Nevada Patriot Podcast. With me today is Dr. Creig Christensen of Pahrump Spine and Wellness. That's right. So thank you for joining us right now. If you're listening to this on kwkiradio.com, 97.7 FM, or Rumble and YouTube, welcome aboard, as we're going to get to know a little bit more about Dr. Christensen here, and also a lot more about the practice and the services you provide our community. I find it to be a hidden gem out here that I know many of you know about it, but for the folks that might not know about it, we're kind of wanting to enlighten you on this. So if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of a little bit about your background and kind of what makes you tick.
Wow, where do I start? I've been doing this for 45 years, what I do. I spent the first part of my career primarily working with pro athletes in the NFL, Major League Baseball, basketball, high-end college athletes. I specialized in post-surgical, post-traumatic injuries, strengthening and rehabbing athletes to get back in the game, shoulder surgeries, knee surgeries, back surgeries, to get them off the disabled list and to get them back on the field. I didn't develop the science of isokinetics, but I developed equipment utilizing the science of isokinetics, which is a contraction load only, so there's no load on the joint, which is really pretty marvelous because now I pretty much specialize in athletes 60 years old to 100, because I can train, I can increase strength, I impact balance like you can't believe, and if you understand that alone could save Medicare millions, because I can take a person and restore their balance so they don't fall issues, and that's the big issue with these geriatrics. A broken hip is $1 million to Medicare. $1 million is what that ends up costing with the surgery, the rehab, and everything that's involved in it. And usually 50% of those people pass away. It's just so traumatic to the body. By restoring the core strength in these individuals and their balance, we've eliminated the possibility of that significantly. Any given day you can come in the office and the majority of the patients in here are Medicare patients, my age and that are working out, that are getting in shape, that we're remodeling the spine, and doing things to eliminate leg pain, back pain, neck pain, headaches, arm pain, simply utilizing the chiropractic and the rehab facility, and you're strengthening people, strengthening the joints, strengthening the muscles across the joints. I've had great successes. I've told these individuals, we're going to live into our 90s, guys. You guys out there that are my age, that are young 70s, I call it, we're going to live into our 90s. And if you look at the 90-year-olds out there today, very seldom do you see one that's not using a cane or a walker. And in my opinion, that's absolutely ridiculous. The reason is because they have not done any core strengthening work since they were in their 60s. The only thing that they've done to train their core is eat too much. We have evidence-based individuals that have come in here and that we've reduced the curves in their spine. We had one patient come in and he was so excited because his doctor told him, well, you're 1.5 inches taller. Well, it makes sense if you get these people standing up straight, they're going to be 1.5 inches taller. And so he weighed him and measured him again, and lo and behold, he was 1.5 inches taller with just what we did with the traction and the exercise programs that we employ. Our goals here to get everybody up and moving and living a lifestyle that we were designed by our Creator in his image. But boy, do we screw it up.
Yeah.
So.
And I think we bought into a philosophy in the healthcare industry at large, in the healthcare culture, to be very reactive to situations instead of being proactive.
Exactly.
And having it as a lifestyle instead of just as treating the symptoms. You know, to me, oftentimes I compare it to turning out your check engine light, you know, taking out the bulb.
Exactly.
When really the underlying issues aren't being addressed.
Well, what they're addressing is, here's the difference between our approach and the medical approach. The medical approach, I can take your x-ray and I can stack pain pills and injections to the moon. But if I don't change the x-ray, all I'm treating are the symptoms. I'm not treating the cause of what's going on. I'm just treating the symptoms. So taking a pain pill or taking medication, all you're doing is really masking the problem. The problem, you know, we need to look at the cause. What's causing the problem? And that's what we specialize in here. We look at the cause. Why are you feeling this way? What's going on? And that's what we treat.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that when you look at the, you know, your average client, when you train folks as if they're athletes, you know, I like that terminology.
I call them geriatric athletes.
Yeah. So if you want to kind of elaborate on some of the tactics and strategies that you would employ, you know, on someone, you know, 60 and above, that's looking to really either stabilize or not, like you said, degrade it when they get into their 90s to where they're going to need all this reactive health care. What tactics and strategies, and, you know, generally speaking, do you kind of employ maybe, you know, to your average patient that comes to you?
Well, of course, we, you know, when the patient comes in, we do an extensive examination and gathering of history. Then we shoot x-rays to look at the spine. And then we measure different curves and angles and things that are occurring in the spine and those we correct. Utilizing CBP, which is chiropractic biophysics, which we have over 300 periodicals from JAMA to Spine and all the major periodicals. It's evidence-based. Everything that we do, we back it with science. That's the difference. And then in the course of that, we look at them and go, okay, most of the people that come in and tell me, well, I have a low back problem, and when I look at the x-rays, it's a low front problem. And because the stomach muscles, the core muscles around the axis of rotation, the back muscles for extension, and you can't leave out the glutes, the hams, and the quads, because if you go around and look at most people our age, this is how they stand up. Well, that's not normal. It's because the core is weak. And so they're having to help the core by holding on to something.
Yeah, they're not even engaging it.
So we look at that, and then we utilize the isokinetic equipment, which is all computer generated. So I can look and see the difference in the strength between the front of your body and the back of your body, the front of your leg and the back of your leg. And I balance that off is what I do and increase it, utilizing the high-tech equipment. Not rocket science, guys, not rocket science. I utilized the same stuff when I was working with the pro athletes. You know, the degree of hamstring and hamstring pulls, for instance. If you're not a 1-to-2 ratio or a 2-to-4 ratio between the ham and the quads, you're going to have issues with pulling the ham off the bone. So we look at that, and we're able to look at that. I guess the best way to put it into words is we're able to look under the hood. Yeah. And you mentioned tune it up. Yeah. And that's what we do. We basically, if the individual will do what we ask them to do, come in, and it's not an easy thing to do. I ask you to come in 3 days a week, give me an hour and 15 minutes. But in that hour and 15 minutes, at the end of 120 days, we reshoot the x-rays, and we have made a dynamic change in the spine, in the cervical curve in the neck, in the low back. Leg pain has gone away, arm pain has gone away, and a person's life has completely changed with that. And I'd like to take credit for it, but all I did was point them in the right direction.
Yeah.
I I would say that we have 100% success with people that truly do what we ask them to do.
Yeah.
Maybe not 100% success, but you know, if you can change somebody's life 10%, that's a big deal.
No, it is. It's huge. Because like you said, I mean, oftentimes if the only way you're addressing your health concerns is by, you know, what I call reactive medication, painkillers, you know, muscle relaxers,
There is
like
a place for that. No, I'm not saying
if that
there
becomes
isn't
your
a place
only
for
lifestyle, then that can be kind of dangerous, I think, right?
And we have great working relationships with the neurosurgeons, the pain guys that are here in town, because I mean, some of these people have lived with this pain, you know, that is pretty debilitating for years. We work with the orthopedist. We've gained a lot of respect from the medical people over in Vegas, and that they're sending us a lot. I think they send us the stuff that they're tired of working on, because they send us some pretty difficult cases.
I want to dive in. We talked a little bit off camera, and you talked about some stuff with me that I found fascinating. Growing up as a Las Vegas native, like you know, raised in Las Vegas yourself, was definitely, you know, grew an endearing relationship with the Runnin' Rebels of the 1980s, the Tarkanian teams, the national championship team, and you spoke a little bit about some of those athletes employing your strategies and employing some of these principles to. I think you talked about it, to basically run other teams right out of the gym. I mean, you had a team that looked like they were that could be playing in a professional basketball league as collegiate athletes. And when you look at really what made them successful, I think was probably employing a lot of the philosophy that you're kind of.
No, Jerry made him successful.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Wonderful coach.
I was blessed to work with Jerry Tarkanian. And I could go into the story of how he recruited people. He was a genius at getting kids to perform. I mean, and I never met one of his athletes that didn't love him.
Yeah.
I never met one of them. And his son, George, was the coach at Chaffey College over in California. And Jerry would go out and recruit his players, and most of them weren't eligible to get into UNLV, so he would get them started over at Chaffey College with George running his program. And that's like he was brilliant. I mean, he had a farm club is what he had. Yeah. And then I met George, and he brought his kids in, and that's how I met his dad. And George looked at me and says, he forgot about his basketball players. He goes, "Could you help me dunk a basketball?" I said, "Yeah, George, if you're willing to work." He goes, "Because the Armenian Olympics are coming up and blah, blah, blah." I said, "Yeah, come in and let's see what we can do." And lo and behold, we turned the clock back on him, utilizing this technology, and he could dunk a basketball. Well, Jerry wanted to know what the heck was going on. And so from there, just one thing led to another. The impact of this technology on the cardiovascular system on athletes that train really, really hard on it is simply amazing as far as recovery time. I mean, you can go, the boxers that we trained could go 3 rounds as hard as they could go, and then we trained them to go 4 rounds and recover, 5 rounds and recover, 6 rounds and recover with pretty much the same intensity. Well, in that sport, a boxer that can go as hard as he did in the first round, in the 5th, 6th, and 7th, that guy's typically usually going to win the fight. With Jerry's team, the ability, it's the same thing. We worked on the cardiovascular and the recovery. And it wasn't just Jerry's team. Every athlete that come in, this impacted them. That's one of the big impacts on them, was to be as fresh in the 4th quarter or in the 5th or 6th round as they were in the 1st, because of the ability for their heart to recover and go out and perform again. I don't treat my geriatric athletes like that. Some of them do, though. Some of them go pretty hard as far as it goes. But that's the impact that we had. We took youth, young kids, because this technology is so forgiving. You can train a kid about 8 or 9 years old and never hurt the growth plate, never hurt them. All it does is it impacts their coordination and their reflexes. So now all of a sudden you got a 10 or a 12-year-old who's sitting on the bench, but because he's quicker, listen guys, it's not rocket science. If you're the fastest kid on the field, you're going to play. They're going to find a place for you.
Yeah.
If you understand that in football, 100th of a second is 8-yard separation from the guy that's chasing you, and you take a guy that runs a 4.5 and drop him to a 4.3-4, now all of a sudden these guys are having a difficult time if they don't get this guy out the line catching him. Yeah. Baseball, same thing. It's all speed around the axis of rotation. All of a sudden, I remember when Rick Burleson come in and said, I don't know what the hell you're doing. I was rehabbing his shoulder. He goes, but I'm hitting the golf ball blankety blank farther. I'm hitting the baseball, 6-8 rows deep into the field. And it's not rocket science, Rick. You're quicker through the movement in that. Basketball players, vertical leap increases because you're also impacting the lean mass to adipose. You're dropping the ratio of fat to muscle. And that's a whole nother subject I could go into. But I mean, that's the impact of this technology on these athletes. Yeah, and so all I've done is taken what I did, criminy, 35 years ago when I started doing this, and I've transferred it into my geriatric athletes. And I'm getting the same remarkable results.
So would you say that early on in your career doing what you're doing now, because in my opinion, definitely decades ahead of the curve, kind of blazing the trail, were you more of someone who was a self-starter as far as doing the research on your own, or are you kind of like me? I call myself kind of an academic opportunist. I look to try to get good ideas and good information from every interaction I have and learn from folks.
Great question.
Versus the research model where you're kind of just going at it.
Great question.
On your own.
When I first started doing this, I had so many different ideas in my head as to why it was impacting people, and I went over and visited with some of the exercise physiologists at Cal State Fullerton, which is one of the top programs. And they thought I was out of my mind. I was talking about changing red fiber to white fiber. Those are muscle fibers that determine posture or speed. I was talking about increasing the size of the mitochondria in the cells, and just all kinds of things that they're looking at me like, and I'll be go to heck if like 6 or 7 years after I went and visited with them, they had done the research, and everything that I thought was going on is what was happening.
Yeah.
And that's so. Guys, I'd like to say that I'm the smartest fellow in town, but I've been blessed. I'm telling you that I've been blessed. This is what I've been blessed. I've had great success. I had twins. I trained the heck out of one of the twins, and they were equal on the field. One season I trained the heck out of one, and the other one, he wasn't real involved in it. Well, that twin ran circles around his brother after that. Yeah. Well, after that, his brother wanted to be trained.
Yeah.
And that is just, it's physiology. That's what God blessed us with.
Yeah. It's like taking a vehicle and just really maximizing the performance.
Or putting a different gear in the rear end,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it. So how long, for our viewers, our listeners, have you had the practice here just so folks know, the location that we're at is in my mind, it's a massive, awesome facility on Homestead, kind of in between, I guess you'd say, Dandelion and the Highway 160. How long have you been at this location doing this?
4 or 5 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And how many patients would you say when you say that the patients that employ your strategies and actually kind of follow the system, would you say that you have an overwhelmingly majority of them that actually do follow through? Because I mean, just walking in today, I see how busy you are.
Isn't it interesting when you look on that floor that the average age, what it is?
Yeah.
The average age is 60 on up. I have 100% success with anybody that will do what we ask them to do.
Yeah.
I don't, the program here, because I've got some guys downstairs that are CBP, chiropractic biophysics, that absolutely are amazing. And that they run circles around me when it comes to the remodeling of the spine and that. So they pretty much give me the training they take care of that end of it. But how long have you been here?
4 months.
4 months, and when he come in, he couldn't lift up his Harley and that, which is interesting. I remember about a month and a half ago, you come to me and said, I cannot believe how much easier it is for me to get around on my Harley Davidson, to pick it up, to move it, and that. But
Well, I was in on Monday. I had my first time at 0 pain levels.
yeah, zero pain after
Zero
4
pain.
months, and your
4
pain
months.
was pretty significant when
Yeah.
you started.
Yeah.
With that scenario, people understand when you're in pain, and you've been in pain chronically for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, you have to go right back down the same track backwards that took you to that pain. Now, it didn't take you 5 or 6 years to get back starting to feel the way that you did with no pain, but it took you 4 months. So you don't do the crime if you can't do the time, is what I say, you know. Now, we'll get you back, we'll get you feeling better, but the majority of people are like anybody else, you know. They give me 6 or 8 or 9 weeks, and then I don't see them for 5, 6, 8 months or a year, and then they're back in here. And so I have a lot of repeat business, and maybe that's good that they don't listen to me. But
So would you say that, you know, the recommendation is to make it, you know, a recurring thing to where they don't lapse and they kind of keep tabs with you even when they're feeling better? Because
Well,
from what you're saying
well,
is maybe
give me-
they can kind of fall
yeah,
off if they
give me
kind of stop it.
Give me the 4 to 6 months to do what I do, and then I don't want to see you. I want to see you once a week or once a month. Go to the gym, get into a dancing class. Go, you know what? Go play golf.
Yeah.
I mean, I got these old golfers that are just thrilled to death because they're all out playing golf again, and they've got rid of their canes.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science, guys. It's not rocket science, and that. And once you get to a certain point, you know, I don't need to see you. You need to go live, and then when you need it, come on back.
Right.
If you need it, come on back.
So some of your long-term advice to folks that really just stick with you for months and months and months, and then they're feeling great, is you advise them kind of keep that active lifestyle
Sometimes I have
going.
a hell of a time kicking them out of here. I have a heck of a time
Yeah,
because
lots of smiley
they feel
faces
so
down
much
there.
better,
Yeah.
and the endorphin release that they get here, you can't get at the gym because
Yeah.
you cannot get your heart rate up at that level. You can't get that endorphin release. So I understand that, and I guess if you're going to be addicted to anything, endorphins are something you want to be addicted to.
Yeah.
So sometimes it gets to a point where I have to just love them out and tell them, hey, go away for a while, see how you do.
Yeah.
And, but
Yeah. Just so any of our viewers don't know, what's the easiest way to reach out to your office if they're looking to have a consultation or?
just call the office and schedule it.
Gotcha.
Don't ask me for phone numbers because I don't have them.
I was gonna say I think all over face, if you just put some of the keywords in there through Facebook, through
Yeah.
Google, through
Yeah.
the search engines, it usually
Yeah,
come
we're-
up pretty
we're on
pretty
Google.
easily.
You'll find us.
Yeah, definitely. I really appreciate the time that you've
Well,
carved out for me
Thank you
today.
for the opportunity.
Yeah, and thank you for giving me a little tour of the facility. Like I said, it's super impressive. I know, we live in a smaller rural community. It's the town of Pahrump. We're a rural town, but to see a real world-class facility like this out here is definitely
Thank you.
a feather in the cap for our town, and we appreciate what you're doing and how you do on a personal note. I kind of see and hear about the nice things you do for the community,
Yeah.
how you help out certain ministries in town, and that's the thing about our community is there's folks like you out here, business owners, but also just really productive members of the community, and it's commendable, because I know folks like you aren't looking for the pat on the back, but it's times like this I like to kind of force the pat on the back and just say, your hard work and your generosity, it doesn't go unnoticed, so
Thank you.
we appreciate you. And on behalf of Dr. Christensen and the Nevada Patriot podcast, I want to wish everybody happy holiday season, and God
Amen.
bless you all.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Tell a friend and join us next time. After you catch your breath, check out the NevadaPatriot.com for more content, advertising opportunities, and to give listener feedback. That website again is the NevadaPatriot.com. Until next time, Patriots, Stay American.